So some people will see me doing this video and be like, what? That's Ken doing that video, moving to Europe. Why? Because I'm a serious Pan-Africanist who believes that people should stay within the continent for us to build the continent. But one thing that I do grapple with, one question that people keep asking me is, what about you? Why are you in Europe? I have lived in Europe. I've traveled the world quite a lot. I've gone to so many countries. I believe I have the experience and the knowledge and the information that can help other people who want to move abroad. But now, those who ask me why I'm abroad, but I keep telling people to stay back home, the answer is, number one, when I was coming here, I did not have the kind of information that I do have now, and therefore that decision probably right now would have been a very different decision. That's number one. And I do make it very clear to most people. I don't lie about Europe. I don't lie about life being exemplary and good and stuff. When I go back to my place, my mom, my parents, they know everything that I've done to survive in Europe. Even when I was doing my master's and all the jobs that I did, I've even done a YouTube video on some of the skills that I had to learn for me to survive in Europe. So it's not an easy journey. It's not an easy decision. It's not an easy thing coming to Europe. But again, a lot of people still want to come to Europe, and that's not a bad thing. People migrate. Even in our history, if you study all our histories, if you study the formation of the world, how the continents came to be, people always moved. People have always been able to move from one place to another, to migrate, to live in different places, because you cannot force people to stay in one place. We are not meant to be. So I do not have a problem when people want to come to Europe. I give you a true reflection of it. I also tell you that I'm not a visa officer. I'm not going to give you some kind of visa. I do not have those powers, and therefore do not expect me to bring you to Europe. Like some people always ask me, hey, Ken, can you bring me to Europe? Can you help me get there? I don't have those powers. Just like any other person, I apply for my visas. I follow the due process. I do everything that I need to do anytime I'm applying for any kind of visa in any kind of country. And because I've visited quite a number of countries, so that means I have worked in embassies and I know the processes quite well. I also lived in different countries, and therefore I know what it takes, what it requires, and how you can go about it. But I also know very well to tell people the truth, what you will expect when you land in those countries, what to expect before you leave Kenya or Africa, generally speaking. I give you that true reflection, that true picture, so that I don't lie to you, so that you don't say, oh, Ken said this, because I was lied to. People didn't give me the real reflection of what to expect. Nobody told me certain things. I had to find them out on my own when I came here. And then I was like, what? That happens here? Yes, it happens here. That's how life is. But people need to be a bit more truthful. We Africans who are abroad need to be a bit more open about life here, so that we don't give people any false hopes. But again, those who still want to move, and still it's a very good thing to move, experience life, get some exposure, know some other cultures, get a different perspective to the world. Like right now, the way I look at the world is very different. It's okay for you to go and experience that. It's okay for someone to want to leave. It's okay for someone to think that life somewhere would be better. And I cannot tell them not to. I don't have that moral authority to tell someone not to move. I would encourage you not to move. I encourage people to try and find, ground in Africa if they can. But some people also have opportunities here. There are opportunities that would be great abroad. There are people who would thrive when they go abroad. There are people who would actually be happy to experience it despite the conditions. So in this video, I'm just going to tell you how can you actually move abroad. I know this is a finance channel, but moving abroad and location has a lot to do with your finances, by the way. A lot of people think that their success will depend on them moving. So like I said, finances are holistic. I don't look at finances from a narrow perspective of money. No, I'm also looking at where do you live, how are your relationships, how is your spirituality. And those who have come to coaching do know this quite well. How is your career? How are all those, people you interact with and the environment in which you are? How do they affect your finances? So if you come for my coaching, we go through all these things. So I do look at finances from a holistic point of view. For me, it's not just about how do you plan your money. I think that takes me probably 2 hours to teach you or teach anyone else. But if we were to look at finances from the wider perspective of even including your geographical environment, where you're living, which country you are, some people are just not fit for certain countries they are in, and therefore when they move, they thrive a lot. And we cannot deny that fact. So we can't say, hey, you need to stay in the continent. It is good for us to stay in the continent. It's good for those of us who've experienced outside to go back to the continent and bring in new ideas so that we can build it up. Again, it's also okay for someone to move here completely, settle here, settle in Europe, and find a life here. It's all fine. It's your choice, and it's what makes you happy. So I'm going to look at some of the ways in which you can move to Europe very easily and very cheaply, but it can also be expensive. But I'm going to look at the cheap ones. So just remember, I'm not saying you have to move from Africa. I'm just saying if you want to move and come and experience Europe, you want to work here, you want to live here, you want to do something here, feel free to explore these options. One of them, which I tell everyone all the time, is the easiest way to come to Europe is education, which is the way in which I came. You can come to Europe through education. A lot of universities in Europe have very low fees. Some actually don't have any fees at all. I know many countries that don't have any fees. If you want me to do that video, I can do a video on countries that do not require any school fee for you to come and study. I can do a different video for that. But one way in which you can move to Europe is through education. So those who come to me and ask me, hey, how can I come to Europe? There is no secret. There is no secret to it. If you're going to come to Europe legally, if you're going to immigrate legally to Europe, then these are some of the ways. Go through education. If you've gone through university, look for ways in which you can continue your education. If you've gone up to Form 4, look for ways you can get a bachelor's degree in Europe. Look for schools. And there are thousands and thousands of schools that could give you opportunities. Some of them pay no school fee at all. Some of them will actually pay you scholarships. They will even pay you a stipend for you to study in countries like Italy. And therefore, you need to do some research. That's one thing I tell people. If you are someone who is easily overwhelmed, if you're someone who easily gives up, then you're not in a position to do this. But it involves a lot of research, getting the right country, getting the right school, and getting the right, scholarships, and then you're applying for it and also getting it. It might take time, but anything that is good takes time. So one way, and you can easily move to Europe, especially if you're a young person, is education. And this could be bachelor's, it could be diploma, it could be master's, whatever it is you want. There are countries that will offer you those opportunities. It could even be PhD. Some come here for the doctorate. Some come even for their postdoctorate studies. So these are avenues you can pursue in order to move abroad. So education is broad. I can look at that in a different video, but if I were to just look at education, it's a video on its own. Second way in which you can move abroad is through marriage or family ties. If you have any family ties, you need to pursue them. You need to look at ways in which you have those family ties and see if you can pursue them. I know people whose parents were abroad, their parents went back to their countries, gave birth to them, they've lived with their parents in those countries, they have a passport, or not a passport really, but they have the right to be in a European country, but maybe they don't even know. So if you have any family ties to a particular country, you can always move back, you can always find ways in which you can move back. If you don't have those family ties, there's marriage. Now, marriage is one way I've seen a lot of people come to Europe. I had so many friends in Finland, for example, who came through marriage. They met their people in Kenya, they met their spouses online or whatever it is, and then with time, they organized their papers, and then their spouses, our partners, brought them over to Europe. So marriage is another easy way, cheap way, I would say, you could actually move abroad, because there are very few expenses on your side, except if you come into some countries like the UK, Canada, US. I believe the expenses can be a bit high. But there are countries whereby the expenses for moving a partner is quite simple, quite straightforward, and quite affordable for most people. So if you want to move through marriage, if you have a relationship that is sustainable, that is a good relationship, and you feel that you want to move abroad, I know many friends who have moved abroad because of their relationships through marriage. Then the third one is work. Now I'm meeting lots of professionals all the time. When I'm doing my coaching, I meet lots of people who are working abroad. They came here through work. They came to UK, they've gone to Canada, Australia, any European country just through work. They could be working for NGOs, they could be working for private companies that bring them and sponsor them to come here and work from here. Some people also just look for jobs online and then they get the jobs to come here. For example, nurses in the UK. Just the other day, there was an agreement by the government to bring over some nurses to the UK. Now, these are avenues you can use and come through work. Again, for people who are in the medical industry, we have agencies that could then help you move from African countries into Europe. Not just the medical industry, the teachers, the teaching industry. We have people in the security industries. We have people in the cleaning services industry. There are agencies that are legit, not fake ones. Be very careful again. There are so many people ready to scam you out there of your money, lying to you that they can give you a visa. By the way, no one has the power to give you a visa to come to Europe. There are clear channels you should follow in order to come to Europe if you want to come to Europe. And that's why I'm saying this. 99% of the time, trying to be illegal in a European country doesn't work. because the structures are so tight that if you are illegal, your life is basically under the water. So you can't just raise your head, you can't just talk, you can't own space. You will constantly living your life like someone running from something. You're like a thief. It's just not the best life you want to live. I discourage people to come here legally, but it happens. You know what happens through the Mediterranean Sea. You know what's happening. Through Italy, Greece, and so on. That's not what I'm going to encourage for sure, because I'm not going to put someone's life at risk for them to move to Europe. It's nonsensical at all to me, and I would not subscribe to it. So if you want a proper job, look for proper channels in which you can then come. If you are in the medical industry, the teaching industry, look for channels. If you can come to further your education, then find ways of getting into your career. Where you are doing your education, the better for you. But yes, work is one way people come. Some people are also just brought in by their companies, apart from just looking for a job. And also, of course, we also have the skilled people's visa. So if you're a skilled person, you're doing something that is so, I would say, a very tight niche that is required, or the skills are not sufficient in Europe, then you're free to make an application based on those skills. So yes, there are so many ways in which you can come when it comes to work. That again is a video on its own that I can do if you want. Let me know in the comment section below. Then we can talk about what are the channels you can follow if you want to come as a professional, or you want to come just to work, generally speaking. There are things like au pair. You can come as an au pair. There are things like, talents. Again, that would fall under there. People have moved to these countries because they have some unique talent that then could bring them over. Then, of course, there's the asylum seekers. If you want to run away from something genuinely, if you're running away from a political situation, I've met asylum seekers who live here. They've been here for 40, 50 years, 20 years, 30 years, whatever. And they have a normal life. They moved here. They are now citizens. When I was in Finland, I met so many asylum seekers, again, from different countries in Africa, for different reasons. As an asylum seeker, you can seek an asylum, a safe haven, for different reasons, that would endanger your life. And if you make an application and it's accepted, then that's your way into Europe. So these are some of the, I would say, the legal ways of coming to Europe, the most straightforward ways of coming to Europe. Of course, there could be like hundreds of ways people could come to Europe, but they are not as popular and not as straightforward most of the time. So you want to have very straightforward things like, yeah, I'm coming to study, I'm coming because I'm married, I'm coming because of work, I'm coming because I'm skilled, I'm coming as an au pair, I'm coming because I have family ties, I'm coming because I want to seek an asylum. So these are some of the direct ways in which people can come to Europe. So if you want to move to Europe, these are the things you can explore. Now, each and every one of them will be different. And under each and every one of them, you'll find different sections that you can then explore. But for young people, the most straightforward route is look for education. One thing is, if you come to Europe, for example, you always can move around. If you come to a different country that you feel that you don't like as much, or you don't feel like you want to live there, that could be a stepping stone into another country that you love. So if you want to come, for example, to the UK, it can be very expensive coming to the UK. It can be very expensive going to Canada. It can be very expensive going to Australia. It can be very expensive going to the US. You could go to other smaller countries that could then give you a channel or a path to go to other countries that you want. Like I said, I'm not saying you need to migrate. I'm not saying you need to move to Europe, but if you feel you want to move to Europe, it's your right to move. It's your right to make the applications, and it's your right to make the decision whether you want to move or not. Nobody should tell you not to. These are some of the ways you can use, and they will be cheap. Education, you could find ways in which it is cheap. Marriage can be very cheap for some countries. Work, of course, most of the time you are even sponsored by the company or the agency that's bringing you over. Asylum is usually very cheap if you get here, because the government basically takes care of everything for you on your behalf if you are genuinely seeking asylum. So most of these ways are quite affordable for you as an applicant. Education can be a bit expensive. That is if you depends on the country you're going to, like the UK, Canada, Australia, US. Education can be expensive if you don't have a scholarship. But again, if you have a scholarship, no issue at all. You can always come to Europe. So these are some of the ways you can use to move to Europe. And then after that, you'll experience life. You decide whether you want to stay or you want to go back to Africa. Depends on what you want. Everyone chooses whatever it is feels good or fit for them. Let me know if this is helpful. Let me know if you want us to do a video on, different ways in which you can move and just go deeper into each and every one of them. We can also do things like, the jobs people do in the diaspora. So yeah, we can talk about diaspora. I have the information. I've been here quite a while now. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below, and then I can answer them. And they can also lead to other videos that could be helpful to other people. Hope this is helpful. See you guys next time. Out.